All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. As staff will call the roll.
Yes, sir. Ana B. Galo. Present. Richard Norton.
Present.
Jose C. Gonzalez. Jorge Dominguez.
Present.
Louis P. LeBeau.
Present.
Joey Diaz.
Present.
Matias Dayano.
Present.
David Montes.
Present.
And Keith Franklin. For the record, you do have quorum.
Thank you. If we can all rise, say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I guess as vice chair, I'm going to go ahead and head this meeting until we have the ability to go ahead and nominate a chair and a new vice chair. So I'll go ahead and entertain the approval of minutes from the last meeting, which was January 11th. Is that correct?
That's correct. I move we approve the minutes.
Second. Any discussion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, well then let's move on. Okay, so today we have one request that's filed by Felipe Ramirez, and that request is to authorize an exception to the literal interpretation of Land Development Code Section 24.77.1 dimensional standard by granting a variance to the R3 zoning district lot width, lot depth, and property area square footage on the east 18.52 feet of Lot 4 and the west 18.52 feet of Lot 5, Block 79, Western Division, located at 104 Zaragoza, by reducing the required minimum lot width from 46 to 37.0 feet, reducing the required minimum lot size from 120 feet to 111.11 feet, and reducing the required lot area square footage from 5520 to 4115.56 square feet in order to replat the property as a single family of residence.
Before the presentation, just a quick note, citizens' comments, we did not have anybody sign up.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and entertain the presentation from staff. I don't see the recommendation by staff on here, and let's see what the staff has to say about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, the applicant is Felipe Ramirez, the owner. Victor J. Linares, PE, is the applicant and the representative. The proper description is the east 18.52 feet of Lot 4 and the west 18.52 feet of Lot 5, Block 79, Western Division, located at 104 Zaragoza Street, Council District 8. The request is a variance from the dimensional standards as required by the Laredo Land Development Code Section 24.77.1, entitled Dimensional Standards, by reducing the required minimum lot width from 46 feet to 37.04 feet, reducing the required minimum lot depth from 120 feet to 111.11 feet, and reducing the required property lot area square footage from 5520 square feet to 4115.56 square feet in order to plat the property to construct a single-family dwelling. The applicant's position, the applicant requests the following variance to reduce the minimum lot width, minimum lot depth, and the property lot area square footage requirements in order to plat the property to construct a single-family dwelling, and will not be able to if the variances are not granted. This is the aerial view. The zoning map. Location, photos of 104 Zaragoza Street. The proposed site plan. On January 3rd of 2023, the building department denied the applicant the building permit on the east 18.52 feet of Lot 4 and west of 18.52 feet of Lot 5, Block 79, Western Division, located at 104 Zaragoza Street, for construction of single-family dwelling, due to the property not being platted and for not meeting dimensional standards of an R3 zoning district. Survey. Proposed replat. Board authority to grant variances. The Laredo Land Development Code allows the Board of Adjustment to vary distance and area requirements in peculiar or unusual circumstances which would prevent the reasonable use of land. Land Development Code Section 24.1.3.2, and grant a variance in applicable cases that the strict enforcement of this ordinance shall deny the property owner the use of his property for any reasonable use. Laredo Land Development Code Section 24.1.3.3. Staff recommendations. Staff does not support the proposed variances for the following reasons. The proposed property may apply for a zone change to an R1B as the zone change will preserve the reasonable use of land. The proposed property meets the dimensional standards for an R1B zoning district for the following reasons. The minimum property width of an R1B zoning district is 35 feet. The proposed property has a width of 37.04 feet. The minimum property lot depth of an R1B zoning district is 85 feet, and the proposed property has a lot depth of 111.11 feet. The minimum property lot area square footage of an R1B zoning district is 3,000 square feet. The property proposed has a property lot area of a square footage of 4115.56 square feet. The proposed property is approximately 4115.56 square feet and shows no topographical features like extreme slope or unconventional shape that would be considered peculiar or unusual. Dimensional standards and the proposed motion. Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Questions for staff?
Go ahead.
Isn't the R1B supposed to be only for new developments, not for existing developments?
That is correct.
Okay.
Now,
I'm just asking a yes or no question.
Okay,
I just wanted to follow up with a couple of questions. This property has always been a B3, correct?
R3.
Like the
R3.
Well, the R3, this is in the Azteca, it's a block away from Zacate Creek. This property has a history of being repossessed for delinquent taxes. It changed hands like 10 times in the last 5 years if you go through WebCat. It's currently vacant, correct?
Yes.
The size of the lot makes it impossible to use under the current zoning.
You're correct.
So any type of attempt to develop this property would require no real alternative available to him at this time.
That's correct.
And staff is against this project.
So, as you're aware, whenever we have cases that come to us, we try to solve them before we come here. In talking to the applicant, we have the potential to take care of this. We have an ordinance that's coming through for our 1D in the Eastern Western Division to actually allow it, because currently the ordinance, it has to be a new development, right? So this ordinance has already gone to council for its first reading. It passed. It's going for the second reading, so it'll go into effect. So then we would be able to take these smaller lots and zone change them into the R1B to get them to where they want to go to build, okay? But as you stated in your question, is that today? No, it's not. It'll be on the March 20th city council meeting.
Okay, so, but the problem we run into is, I get your perspective look on how the ordinance may come in. We're violating the rules because as the rules are today, you take the rules how they are at that moment. And so by us denying it and not supporting it, we're depriving the owner of the use and enjoyment of his property, because forget the idea that you think or we think it's going to pass, the modification, it may not. And so at this point, we're depriving the owner as far as the rules. Like, this meets all the standards, right? Because he can't build anything as is, and there's no alternative to build anything else.
And that's why he's here today.
Okay.
That's why he applied. He was denied, which, by getting a denial makes this right. So it's able to come to you at Board of Adjustments. We just wanted to put out there because we are seeing this a lot more in the older neighborhoods, that we have illegally subdivided properties and it makes life difficult. So we do have a new ordinance coming in that hopefully can help with that. But I understand where you're coming from on that.
Mr. Alvaro, on the map that shows that lot, the two portions which make up the parcel, which is part of Lot 4 and part of Lot 5, there's a reference to what looks like a deed, volume 5346, page 871. Did Mr. Ramirez just buy this property from these people, or how did he acquire the?
If you could open public hearing, we could have the engineer come up and he could answer some questions.
All right,
about the property.
I'll go ahead and then I'd move to open the public hearing. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. You, sir, can you introduce yourself, please, for the record?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is, members of the board. My name is Victor Llanes with Savvy Engineering. I'm here representing the owner. To answer just your question, pretty much when they buy the property, they do buy, he pretty much ended up buying a tract. And the tract is pretty much a portion of one lot and portion of another lot.
Yeah, I see that.
Yes.
So Mr. Ramirez just recently purchased that part of 4B and that part of 5A?
Yes, and so one of the drawbacks.
Just part of it? You just bought part of the lot?
Yes, pretty much one of the drawbacks about this tract is it's illegally subdivided. And so that's one of the portions where it has to go to get platted in itself to correct pretty much this undivided lot that's broken into two lots. And so that's the formality. It's just the platting process. One of the other reasons it's going through the platting process, it's also lacking water and sewer services itself. Unfortunately, on the Eastern Western Division, there's various tracts that are in this condition. The city does allow a concept called lot of record, but it's only if it was subdivided at September 9, 1979. But this was not the case on this tract. And so this got subdivided along the property, along the different owners illegally.
So Mr. Ramirez then purchased from Jesus Garza Jr. and Rosaura Villarreal that portion of Lot 4, and then from Jacqueline Villarreal and Juan Villarreal that portion of Lot 5? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. They didn't buy that from those neighbors. Pretty much that tract itself was with those boundary limits from periods and ownerships before.
Can you explain what you mean by that? That tract was with those boundary limits?
Pretty much, there's sections of Eastern Western Division where people, and this is just old school selling, where they would just illegally subdivide lots. Meaning I would own lots 2 and 3, and I would sell half of this lot to one person, the other half to the other person. What I understand from the deed records from WebCAD, pretty much this tract, what used to be 4 and 5 back in the day, used to be one owner. And so somewhere along the line, this one owner sold one half to the guy on the left and the other half to somebody else. And so as time goes by, they just keep, it's just, that tract was illegally subdivided and it just kept getting sold and sold and sold. And so with this property, aside of it being illegally subdivided, it just never had water and sewer services, because the water and sewer services are actually to the other lots that are, you could say, registered already. And so it's just a tract of land that just keeps passing on. But it's a tract of land that's not platted, and that's what's happening. And even though it's Eastern Western Division, was just illegally subdivided.
Are there houses on lot 4 and lot 5?
On this specific lot, no, the neighbors, yes.
So there's a house on lot 5.
That's correct, yes.
So by taking half of lot 4, when they come to try to build a house, will also be illegal. Because now they'll only have, 15, 16, 19, 18 point something feet
That's-
frontage.
that's correct.
So they'll also, so passing this, I'm asking this to staff, doing this, don't we cause a problem right next to them?
If and when they come,
For a building permit.
So you're taking, I don't know what,
There's certain rules on the building permit aspect that, let's say as an example, let's pick on the neighbor on the left side. If he's trying to do a repair or such, the building department will allow him to do repairs to an existing structure up to a certain percentage. If they're trying to expand to a certain percentage, I think it's 50%, that if they try and expand furthermore, they won't allow it. They would then ask for it to be platted. And then the other part is usually where people get kind of caught where they're needing to plat is the request for a water meter. And so the lucky part, pretty much these owners, they're able to do some repairs, they're able to do such, they're able to get services, and they already have their meter and such. It's just the sad part is this one lot got left alone and vacant, and it's been empty for a while, and it doesn't have a meter itself. And so there's, I've experienced this in the past, there's just lots that unfortunately they go through this scenario. And the one who gets affected is usually the end user. And so they're having to go through the platting process and trying to get a meter and trying to get a permit. And so,
they all didn't know this when they bought the property, that they wouldn't be able to build? I mean, they just bought the property,
yeah, they just bought the
and they
property.
didn't know they weren't gonna be able to build?
Correct, yeah, unfortunately.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, after, go ahead, finish. but
No, go
I have a
ahead.
question. So, they bought the property already, and it's already deeded under their name?
Yes.
And the property, I look at the plans and it seems that they're gonna be conforming with complying with the setbacks, construction setbacks. I noticed that they have about 5.9, 5 feet, 9 inches to each of the sides, and they're complying with the front and the setbacks of the rear. The only question here is the size of the lot, because Mr. Ramirez already owns the property. So in order to, for us to be, and this is only my personal comment, for us to be talking about the different properties on the side, then I think we're actually moving from the real point that we're talking about, this particular property. So I feel that if the ordinance is gonna come in and actually it's gonna create more like an R1B, see, in the next future, why should we hold the owner from building the house, Mr. Chairman? Since they're complying already with the setbacks, they're complying with the only thing that building department is asking is that we grant a variance. Now, my opinion is that, if a month from now, it's gonna become legal for it to be an R1B, then why should we even hold him from continue to use the property, to enjoy the property?
I think you have a good point, but the problem
Let me
becomes,
finish.
if we start allowing a lot of this, what happens is, we start sort of making the exception the rule of everybody going and acquiring property that otherwise would not be able to be platted. Well, this guy did it, so we're gonna do it, and so you open the floodgates for people basically illegally subdividing. And what we wanna reduce is illegal subdivisions. Now, he mentioned that prior to, I think 79, but it actually was about 81, before the zoning ordinance we had, everybody did that. And you couldn't stop it. Some guy would deed the right half or the left half or the south half or the north half, and that would be effective. And we deal with those problems now, but we don't want to be encouraging people to go acquiring properties that's happened to, and then come and say, well, we can't do anything else with it, we need to get a variance.
Let me make a,
That's
If
where,
I may,
that's where
I'll
we
make
have to do
a
something else.
real quick comment, and you're right, Mr. Sherman. I agree with you 100%, but the new ordinance actually is providing for the west section of Laredo for developers to come and cut the lots and make them smaller, even smaller than what Mr. Ramirez owns, see? So you're correct, but I feel that this particular property, as it was mentioned by the engineer, it's already built on both sides. So it's not something that's gonna be creating like a flower that it's in span. I mean, this is by itself. So that was my
So-
comment.
No,
Thank you,
So
Commissioner.
just one comment, and Mr. Dominguez, and you know this from planning and zoning, but R3 is the only zone that allows you to put a second dwelling on the property.
And we had that situation, Mr. Novato, with Habitat for Humanity, where they had removed two structures on an R3 and then wanted to do.
Three structures.
Right, there was, well, two houses that were houses, and wanted to come back and do two, and you could do that, but you just can't make them separately owned. You know, now, in theory, they could do that here on this R3, because we're just varying the R3. Wouldn't it be better in reality to wait for the R1B and then give them the R1B?
Can I make a comment on that from,
Yeah,
in
sure.
regard to the R3? It won't be accepted by planning or building. R3 has a density requirement, and just by the lot size, it being less than 6,000, it's not gonna allow pretty much that extra dwelling to be placed. And so that actual guideline is actually on land development ordinance. So Mr. Ramirez, as an example, right now is trying to get like another dwelling to do multifamily or such, or just the duplex. He won't be able to do it because of the lot density. And so he's actually pretty much strict on the rule that he only complies with one dwelling. And one of the things, if I may, I also wanted to point out two things about the process. Is one thing about the R1B is that it does require 3 parking spaces. The owner himself, let me see, let me get the, you should see it on your attachments. Pretty much the structure he's trying to build, it's a humble 2-bedroom, 1-bath structure. And that's pretty much, it's sized for the setbacks, it's sized for the use for this specific lot. That's one portion. They kind of have already, they already have pretty much a designer who kind of laid out the setbacks and such. And so with the small lot, it will be requiring to have 3 parking spaces. And so one that changes the configuration, it adds more concrete, more cost to the owner. That's one minor comment I wanted to make. The second comment has to do more with the time lapse of the ordinance versus now. I think the intent, out of personal opinion, the intent is the same, either trying to get it approved with the board or trying to get the R1B. The intent is the same in trying to help this owner who's still, at either case, he's still facing an illegally subdivided lot. He's still facing the plating process. And so one of the main arguments that I want to make to the board is if we're able to get approved today, then on March 22nd, I'm able to go preliminary and already start for this homeowner to do construction for this house. If it gets denied by the board today, I would have to apply for zone change on March 21st, wait for the meeting the following month, and then also wait for council approval. And so we're talking me going to preliminary plat until May. And so it's pushing just the owner and trying to accomplish the same goal for a month. I respectfully, in a different perspective, I do like the R1B concept. I'm not against it. I just want to make the main argument is this would help the homeowner now follow with pretty much the rules, the guidelines of the Land Development Code and the powers of the Board of Adjustment. And it'll give him the same goal. And so I'm just trying to push more of the timeline where he's able to construct sooner than pretty much 45 days later. And so those are really my main points that I wanted to bring up.
So if I understand correctly, you're just trying to speed up your building because by the next reading of this ordinance, when it passes, you will be in compliance. You're just trying to move your timeline? Is that, am I understanding?
Yes, and this is more on the owner part, because when it comes to the construction, I'm not dealing with the vertical construction with the residents. That's with the contractor and the owner. I'm more part of the plating process and trying to pretty much legalize that lot itself. So both processes, I'm going to be doing the same task for it. It's just trying to speed up the process for them. At the end of the day, it's like me personally as a homeowner. If I'm trying to go into construction, I have a loan. You know, that's another 30 days. That's another material pricing going up and down. Usually, you know, just delay itself on construction, it's a cost in itself. And so a month might seem short, but in construction, it can be quite a bit.
If it goes for replat, you're done?
Let me interrupt for a second and note that Mr. Franklin showed up late, and we'll put him on as far as
getting on the record.
No demerits, please. Sorry. There was a wreck on 35.
Just wanted to know
Good
that he
excuse.
showed up. Mr. Dominguez, what were you to say?
Make a motion
I
to
was
give them a
gonna-
demerit, just for.
I just want to.
Fails for lack of second.
I want to add, Mr. Sherman, that, and I was going to ask Mr. Linares, will that, going to a replat, let's suppose that we deny it today. You go back for a replat. Will that create a burden for the owner by replatting? Would that be more costly than if we approve it today?
When it comes to the replat itself, the goal will still be the same, that I still need to pretty much legalize city parameters to one lot, but I won't be able to do anything. If it gets denied today, I would have to cross my fingers that it gets approved on the zone change. Okay. That's really the factor that I think would, it's kind of a zone change. I've told many customers it's a 50-50. It might seem obvious and work out, and it might just not work out. And so it's still being left at a different stage to address it. Yeah.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Sure, go ahead.
If we were to table it today instead and see whether the zone change went through, if perhaps it didn't, then we could reconsider the application at that time, correct?
That's correct.
Just as an option.
That's correct.
And so-
Or they could go back, redo their stuff, and we wouldn't even see them again. In other words,
What do you mean redo their stuff?
they would go back to planning, ask that the lot be replatted as an R1B, and likely be approved if they change the ordinance, and we wouldn't see them again.
Yeah, but I guess the reason for not declining it today and tabling it instead, because like Mr. Theus mentioned, there is, I think we all assume that it's going to pass, but there's a chance that it doesn't. And so if it doesn't pass, then this owner has no reasonable use for the property and should have a variance, I think.
And if we deny it, that's a final decision. He can't come back, we can't come back.
Yes.
So if we table it, at least we have a chance to come back on the item and approve it and/or deny it later.
Right,
And/or let him go back to get a B1, or R1B, and we won't even see him again.
And worst case scenario in that, if that's what happens, it puts your timeline to begin in May versus March,
Yeah,
assuming all those.
my two arguing points, it's one, yes, the timeline, but then two, just that slight risk of getting denied. And pretty much this request for variance, I've seen it in the past, and actually I think even the last item that you guys had, this is an item that's been done before in the past. It's nothing different, and I just want to respectfully ask the board if, they can support something that's been done before.
I have a question.
This variance? Did you ask a question?
Go ahead, Mr.
About the neighbors, I've asked this question before.
Yeah, there's
How
actually
do
the
the
case before
neighbors
it.
feel about this, what you're doing? Are they aware?
That's a good question for staff. Have
'Cause
you-
we always ask, to, people speak in favor or against, and there's no one here to speak against, because nobody knows, around the neighborhood what's going on. And my, comment is, or recommendation is to send letters to these people, so to see what, is going on, so they could come up and speak for or against. And, I'm just asking if the neighbors are aware of what's going on there.
No, sir.
The only comment I can ask is that the use is for single-family dwelling, and it's the same as the surrounding. Usually, I've seen more neighbors go against when the use is changed. In this case, the use, it's still gonna be a single-family dwelling. And even though it's zoned as an R3, the density of that lot won't allow for other dwellings to be added. And so it's gonna be pretty much a one-dwelling lot itself.
Mr. Navarro, I think Mr. Montes raised a good question. Isn't it the normal process for staff to send out letters to neighboring owners when there's a zone change application?
On a zone
For
change,
zoning.
yes.
Okay, in this instance, there's not a zone change though, he's just varying the zone, the parameters of the zone.
That's correct.
You're
So-
passing the zone. right?
Yeah, so there wouldn't have been a zone change to send out to neighbors in that instance.
That's
That's
correct.
correct.
Okay, is there anything else that gets sent out to them in those type of instances where it's not necessarily a zone change?
No, we post a sign, at the property, and we send out letters to the surrounding property owners, 200 feet. We send those letters out, and those cards go out for a zone change.
Okay.
When they go to city council, It's the newspaper ad, that's the communication today.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move to go ahead and close the public hearing and see what the board wants to do.
Thank you.
Any motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing, there's a motion, second.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What does the board want to do? Any,
I just have some questions because I'm
Mr. Diano?
very curious. How long has this lot been empty?
I'm not sure, in fact, since God put it there.
Yeah, I did
Anybody
just
know?
a quick Google search, and as far as back as the Google Maps, the street view, it was empty as far back as I could see. You know,
So 20, 30, 40, 50 years?
no, I don't think it goes back that far. What did it show, do you remember? Maybe
I think it's
2012?
like 2009.
Maybe 2012, something like that.
Like 10 to 12.
On Google Maps, it goes all the way back to 2007, and it was an empty lot in 2007.
Yeah.
It's been empty ever since, as per WebCat and, you know, the tax, I mean, it's just been the property itself, no, improvements on that property.
Yeah, we never found any evidence.
And how
of
long
structures.
have those other two houses on either side been in
Only one
existence?
in there?
There's only one? I see two.
One's occupied, one's not. It's,
Yeah, but I'm saying, those structures, how long have they been there?
But I think,
We
Matt, they
didn't-
said
we
that
didn't
there's no
research.
house on lot 4. Maybe that
We
one's on
researched the other lots.
the neighboring lot, the other house.
I see 102 and 106,
Oh, okay.
right? So I see two structures. How long have they been there?
We didn't do any research on the neighboring structures,
No?
no.
Okay, so my next question is, if we decline, then what is the next step for the owner as
Seeking a zone change,
seeking his own change?
yes.
Well, he waits.
That they
He
may,
waits if they approve the zone change.
that they may or may not get,
Yeah.
and then they've already been denied here, so they couldn't.
So if they don't get the zone change, then he's got no more recourse?
Right now, no.
Correct.
Then it's done, it's back to an empty lot
Yes.
for another 50 years?
Correct.
Was it bought at auction? I'm curious.
No.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get at is, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, are we trying to help the situation or keep the empty lot in the same condition it was for the next,
So,
30, 20, 30 years, whatever? I'm just trying to figure out, if I was, I'm trying to put myself in the owner's,
right, so there's a little
shoes.
history, just to help you out. Recently, we had a case that came in which we call the habitat case, you know. It was an R3 lot, it had very old buildings, we couldn't even live in those things, right? So Habitat tore them down, and they wanted to make two lots out of it, keep one for the owner of the property and the other one they wanted to sell.
Right,
They couldn't do that because the lot was too small.
right.
So that was taken to city management, they talked about it, and they asked that we create an ordinance that would reduce the size of the lot to kind of accommodate, right? Which we did. So before this case, we took that zone case to P and Z, it got passed at P and Z, then we took, not the zone case, but the ordinance, we took it to P and Z, got it passed, took it to council, and they read it the first time. So it's going for its second reading. So if that passes, because there's that slight possibility, then they would be able to make a zone change and build their house there. So that's what that ordinance is coming in to try to help people that have smaller lots.
And when is this?
Right. So it'll go to the March 20th city council meeting to be read for the record. So if we didn't have that ordinance, then we'd be sitting in a position where this person just doesn't have anywhere else to go. And then he would be here to talk to you. I talked to the client, I explained the situation, I said, you know, we're pretty much right in line, so if you'd want to wait, we can wait, and then we could just do the zone case process. But time was of the essence for him, and he wanted to bring it to you. So that's why it's here. But we will have an ordinance that will accommodate these smaller lots in the future.
So eventually, he will be able to build on it. It won't be an empty lot for the next 20, 30 years.
Correct.
Eventually,
Eventually.
right? In some form or fashion.
That's right.
with an ordinance change or a zoning change or somehow.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't know, though, if we know that happens for sure right now. Like Joey was saying, council could not vote for the ordinance change. So if we denied this here, they'd be done. They'd have to wait around for another potential ordinance change.
If we denied.
If we
That's why you
denied.
want to table it.
Now, if we tabled it, we get an opportunity to see if the zoning change happens. They can do the zoning change, and then the application to the BOA becomes moot.
Correct.
Is that?
That's correct.
And it pushes back his timeline, of course, which I understand, and that's a priority and a concern. But as far as what our powers are to look at is there reasonable use of the property?
No.
Well, at the current time, there is not.
And-
And we can't assume that R1B is the parachute that's gonna save them because it hasn't passed. We don't know that for sure right now.
It's an unknown.
But we will know perhaps in a couple weeks.
But I think it's maybe not safe to say, but I think it's maybe probable that it's going to pass if it was done to accommodate a nonprofit. And it seems like council wanted to help the nonprofit, and that would help a homeowner like this applicant. In other words, I don't see it being denied.
Oh, yeah, that's the exact same thing we did. I was here for the Habitat case. We tabled that. They did the hard work to get the ordinance there as far as it's gotten. It's just not quite over the finish line
And
yet.
it won't come back to us.
And it will not
It
come-
won't come back to us
won't
because.
If it passes, it won't come back to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Very, very similar to this situation. It won't come back
Exactly.
to us.
That's similar, exactly.
I'll entertain a motion from the board.
I'll move that we table the item, Mr. Chairman, until so that we have a date certain until the April meting.
You want to
second it.
table then this item till the April meeting?
Well, it may not
It may not
be the
necessary.
April meeting. If the 1B passes, then they won't have to come back to us. But
They can withdraw their
We have a
application.
motion to table, is there a second?
Yeah,
Second?
I agree.
All in favor?
Aye.
You want,
Any
table time
nays?
certain?
Huh?
Time certain to the
That's
next
what
I
he just
think we
said.
said
Yeah,
April.
my motion was to the April meeting.
Mine is,
I'm against.
I'm opposed.
I think I'm going to oppose also.
Okay, so
So wait, Mr. Tejas and Ms. Galo and Mr. Dominguez opposed?
Yeah.
So that's 3 opposed, that would be 5 in favor, that would not pass. Mr. Navarro, please.
5-3,
5 to 3.
motion passes.
Yes.
The motion to table?
Yes, motion table passes.
Okay.
Yeah.
5-3.
Just
Oh,
over.
yeah, motion table, it's not.
I thought you said the other way.
Is there, I mean, there's nothing on the agenda for other business, but my question is, when you guys, and I mean staff, see these aerials, is there anything we can do to be a little more proactive? Like, I know you can't get a waiver from the county clerk's office to file a document or something, but just by eyeballing it, you've got at least 6 lots in this aerial that are out of compliance. Like, is there a way, the idea of sending postcards to let people know, I think in practice has shown that it doesn't work. But if you can either file like a notice with the county clerk's office or something with the taxing authority to let you know that if you transfer, or something that would show up in a title history where these people, if they bought it, just letting you know you're out of compliance.
I like your idea, Mr. Tejas, but that would be a tremendous amount of
Well,
work.
it
I
would
mean,
be, but.
It would be
as-
impossible.
Well, it's not necessarily impossible if you break it up, like, as the cases come in, you can see, you do the aerials. You know the certain parts of town, which is really the old school downtown, Azteca, certain these areas that were pre-ordinance date. You don't really get this more on the later developments because after 79, it all changed. But you should have, even on the buyer side, I get the point that as a buyer, when you buy something from downtown or La Derriera or wherever, you should be on the lookout. There's title problems.
Buyer beware.
Buyer beware. But we as a city should be proactive to help, not be obstructive. And so,
Yes, sir, I understand what you're saying. A lot of times, these kind of problems come through the building department because you have a situation like this where it belonged to the daughter, the parents split their lot, they build a house for their daughter, daughter lives there, daughter gets married, she moves out, then they sell that house to somebody else, and then it triggers the problem, right? So when that person comes in for a building, they either come in for a building permit, or they're trying to get a water meter, or they're trying to get an electrical meter, that's when we catch the fact that it's not proper. So there's some laws like the 1979 law that allows for them to continue living there and get services to help them. But if they want to tear it down and do something different, that's when they have to get into the plating, and that's when it becomes a bigger issue.
I get that, but what I'm trying to say is, once you get notice of it as a city, we should do something to file it, because that lady is not going to, a seller should disclose in the sale of a property any potential obstructions or limitations on the use of the property, but what's supposed to be done and is done in practice don't always coincide. Can't we file something like, because when they do a title search, that as you're in the process of purchasing it, something pops up, or?
That says that it's illegally subdivided.
Yeah, like, so that whenever that person tries to transfer it down the line, it's open and notorious, so that we don't have to deal with the problems Mr. LeBeau is talking about, which I'm sympathetic with the buyers.
Right. Typically, if it's done through a title company.
Yeah, that's gonna-
and a survey is performed, that's when they'll find out that it's an illegally subdivided property. If they follow what we call the correct way of doing a transaction. But if they do it through a notary, or they, whatever, it's just a cash deal or whatever, and they just file it like that, we won't see it. But if it's done through a title company, typically they'll pick it up. They'll pick up that it's illegally subdivided. And you'll see it, if you're at WebCAD, if you see any description that has a half, a fourth, something in.
North or south.
Yeah, north or south, that's an illegally subdivided property. That's an immediate red flag.
But can't we flag it with the tax office and say, like, do something with, you give out the tax statements every year, you can just say, like, hey, by the way, reminder, put it in the notice. Like, in the notice of your taxes due. And I'm sorry that this lasted longer than it needed to be.
No, but I get what you're saying, to try to help the people out, to kind of forewarn them, I guess, that they have this problem. The letters that we send out and everything, that's by state law, so we're following that, but.
But you can add in whatever you want.
Yeah, I can call the appraisal district, talk to the director, and just ask if there's any way that they could flag it from their end.
And I get what Mr. LeBeau is saying, that, yeah, it's an enormous task, but as these cases come in, because you see the zone changes, you see the building permits, you see whatever, and when you do the aerials like these, you can tell from the beginning which ones, I mean, you look at them, I've got 215 San Pablo, 211 San Pablo, 201 San Pablo. All of these are R3, very few of these are whole lots. All of these other ones are.
I can tell you that the building director, Mr. Hickel, he faces this all the time.
Yeah.
It is just constant. And so he definitely would support what you're saying, because he's trying to find a way to do this, because if you just Google Western Division, north of downtown, just Google it, it should be 8 lots, right? 4 and 4, something like that. And you'll see all kinds of, air-conditioned shop with a taller next to it with the house, and it's just all over the place. And they'll stay like that. I mean, they don't come to us for anything, but the day they do come in, that's when the ball starts, and those will catch. But I mean,
But I guess we should start somewhere, like at least when they come in on one property and we see the neighbors, like, hey, let's flag all these surrounding properties. And at least we start somewhere, instead of just keep on saying, like, it's too hard. We're gonna be dealing with this.
Yeah.
Always.
Always, yeah. But it is a nightmare to try to get it pretty and looking, because it's just all over the place. And then building inspectors do go out before somebody wants to do something, they'll check it, and they will see that you even have utility water lines or sewer lines that go underneath houses. They're not set up right, and that's an issue too, because they've had it for 50 years. And then you go in, you see it illegal, now you want to cut them off because it's illegal, but they've been like that for forever, you know? And so you cut them off because it's going to be very difficult to run a line in there. So you leave it, because what are you going to do? You don't want to put that person.
I don't know if we're going to be able to solve that today. If
Oh, it's a good discussion.
If
I
I
mean,
might entertain a
definitely-
motion to adjourn.
Before we do a motion, I'll make a motion to adjourn, subject to putting on the agenda for the next hearing, election of commissioner.
Mr. Navarro, can we talk about that?
I will do that. I'll also put for new items so that you can have somewhere to discuss things.
All right.
I'll do that. And to do the election, we need 100% in attendance. But so we'll keep it on there. If we don't have it, we'll just keep it on until we get 100% and then we'll make the vote.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro.
Yes.
A motion to adjourn is on the floor, second. Mr. Norton, second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.